I'm Justin Boyd.
And I don't watch my language. I'm Brittany Pacheco, and we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss or to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, Brittany, you probably know this, but Age of Ultron came out May 1st, 2015, and it is one of 13 films that Marvel has put out in May since the MCU started in 2008. So May is a very popular month for Marvel, and we are just at the tail end of the month trying to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the film. But before we get to our thoughts on Age of Ultron, our top 10 moments and all that good stuff, there was some news last week. This is not breaking news for us because it happened last week, but I want to mention because the next two Avengers movies that are coming up, they are both supposed to start in May. They're supposed to be May releases. We were going to get Avengers Doomsday was going to be May 1st, 2026. And then Avengers Secret War is going to follow on May 7th, 2027. That is no longer the case. Now, Doomsday has been pushed back to December 18th, 2026. And Secret Wars has been pushed back to December 17th, 2027. So we're pushing it back about 7 months or so. And Brittany, I want to get your thoughts. What do you think about the move to delay the movies by about 7 months?
I am not at all surprised because I think in order to hopefully, fingers crossed, make a good movie, they are going to take this one very serious. It's a huge cast, everyone. And there's also been like leaked photos of cast members out having dinner or just being out in Bahrain. And there's a lot of speculation, of course. I'm not at all surprised about the delay. I am perfectly fine with it, just as long as the movie is done well and the story is fleshed out and it's got, a little bit of everything, of course. It's a big movie. So therefore it was inevitable to, wow, that was kind of funny. Me saying I am inevitable or just inevitable. Anyway, the fact that it's a big movie, it's going to take time. Not at all surprised by the delay. I am surprised in a fashion that they are still going to keep it within the year, right? So originally the premiere date was of May, and now they're saying December, but it's of the same year. So, that's okay. We'll see. I don't put a whole lot of stock in movie release dates anymore because they always seem to be changing, and reshoots are always going to be a thing, and sometimes that delays the date even further. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised at all. Like you, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they push it back again. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to May, but the next May. You know what I'm saying? Like go for 2027, 2028 will be when we see these movies. Yeah, they need more time. These are two massive movies, and very important for the future of the MCU. Introducing Robert Downey Jr. as a different character, so it's got to be a hit. And given Captain America: Brave New World didn't do that great, although it is out on Disney Plus today, as we are recording this on on May 28th. See, I'm thinking about the Christmas because that's my next point. But as we're recording on May 28th, Captain America: Brave New World is now on Disney Plus, so you can go check it out there. Also, you check out our review. We talked about it back in February when it came out. Be sure to check that out. But also, yeah, I think that they need the extra time and they may push it back again. But I like the fact that we might get Avengers movies for Christmas. How cool would that be? Remember when Star Wars was every Christmas? Those were such a fun time, even though some of those movies weren't great. I mean, well, one of them especially. But that was so fun for 4 years in a row. We had a Christmas Star Wars movie because we had
more or less. Yeah. No, those were good times because like you and I and a couple of other people, we get together and that would be like our Christmas movie. And for me, growing up, we would always have Christmas movies. Many, many times throughout my life, we would always go to the movies on Christmas to watch said Christmas movie. So I'm okay with it. I'm good with it. I really don't care when the movies premiere personally. I just want a good movie. I want a story that's fleshed out. Make it make sense. You're bringing back RDJ. You better make it make sense, Marvel. Like, come on. You got it. That's a huge explanation to give the audience. and the characters within the MCU. So
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so
whoa.
go for
Sorry, I'm looking in the chat. Shout out to M Moves and King B Johnson for being in today's chat. But Justin, M Moves just like dropped a bomb in our chat, y'all. M Moves says, fun fact, never seen a single Avengers movie. What? So did Justin was in the same boat up until I converted him from DC to MCU, and now he's
yeah,
like,
but I've seen 2 of them in theaters though. I've seen half of them in theaters. So
yes, but you
well,
that's fine.
In fairness, a lot of people jumped on kind of when I did too. So
you heard it here, folks. Justin's a bandwagoner.
no, not bandwagoner, but I just wasn't into the Marvel movies until the Infinity Saga really got to the very end. Then I got into them. Then I got crazy into them. Then I got into them more than most people ever will. But that is a fun fact from M Moves, because given how well those 4 movies have done, that puts you in a small percentage of the population that has not seen those movies, because those movies have made some money. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But yeah, just to wrap it up, Doomsday Secret Wars delayed. I think universally, just across the internet, it seems like everyone's kind of cool with it. Everybody's kind of excited that they're going to have more time to make a better movie. And that's really what matters. And I'm the same way. Like, it would have been cool next year around my birthday to go see Doomsday. I was looking forward to it, but I'm like, you know what? If it's a better movie at Christmas time, that's super cool too. So that's that. So let's move on. Let's get to Avengers Age of Ultron. Celebrate 10 years of this movie. Brittany, let me hit you with some facts before I get your thoughts. Again, the release date, May 1st, 2015. It's the 11th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the 5th film of Phase 2. A runtime, 2 hours, 24 minutes. Box office, $1.4 billion, which makes it the lowest grossing Avengers movie, but just slightly under the first Avengers movie. But still, $1.4 billion. Marvel would take that for sure right now. They would love to have a $1.4 billion movie like they did last year with Deadpool and Wolverine. Budget $365 million. It is one of the most expensive movies ever made. Although, as we've talked about many times on this podcast, the budgets, even the box office, sometimes like those numbers are fudged a lot, especially the budgets. You don't really know like what's true and what's not. So, again, take it with a grain of salt.
Fake news.
Yeah. The movie was written and directed by Joss Whedon, who also wrote and directed the first Avengers film. And the cast includes, and there's a lot of people in this movie: Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Don Cheadle, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Cobie Smulders, Anthony Mackie, Hayley Atwell, Idris Elba, Linda Cardellini, Stellan Skarsgård, James Spader, and Samuel L. Jackson. And the movie most notably introduces us to the Maximoff twins, and we get the birth of Ultron, the AI villain, and also the birth of Vision. So Brittany, overall thoughts, and this is one of your faves, right?
It is. Yeah, in terms of Avengers movie, like true Avengers movie, because I will still advocate that Captain America Civil War is an Avengers movie 2.0, basically, right? It's just like it is, right?
2.5.
Team up.
Yeah, it's like Avengers
2.5. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it just is. But I really enjoy Age of Ultron, and I'm not sure if it's because you see a different side of how the team interacts with one another, the camaraderie, the like little love interest that you see from Natasha and Bruce, which kind of, I think for a lot of us came from left field, but it was nice to see that. It was nice to find out about Hawkeye, and his private life, and just the different little funny moments that were personal moments, but it shows that even though they work together as a team, they really don't know each other that well. And I think that's just something that a lot of us can relate to, like, especially in the workplace, Justin. I mean, you and I are kind of the exception. Obviously, we're very close, really good friends. We enjoy being around each other, but then we also work well together. And I like James Spader as the villain. There's something just about his voice that is just very fitting, like the very almost nonchalant, very sarcastic, and just very like kind of manner that he lends his voice to this character because you never see him in person, obviously, right? He's totally AI and robotic and what have you. I really like this movie. It's not everyone's favorite, but I wanted to point out here too that King V Johnson had said something about Age of Ultron might not ever be everyone's favorite Avengers, but it's easily the most realistic. And apparently, this is Scarlett Johansson's favorite Avengers team up movie. So, I mean, I think it's cool. I feel great knowing that this is one of my favorites, and it's ScarJo's favorite too. So,
yeah,
suck on that, suckers. No, I'm just kidding. But I really do love this movie. I think it's a great movie, and I love the introduction of the Maximoff twins and just the level of action that we get, and then how this is kind of the maybe not so much catalyst, but like how this is the stepping stones for what will become Endgame, right? You get a lot of these Easter eggs in this movie, and I think maybe that's also why I enjoy this movie so much.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that's paid off in Endgame from this film, and like you said, like a lot of people, this is their least favorite Avengers movie. This is my least favorite Avengers movie, but I do like it. I enjoy the movie, and I think that well, I don't think it's a great movie. It's got a lot of great character moments, which is what the MCU is built on, and it's a great setup film for the rest of the Infinity Saga. It really is.
Yes.
There's so many things that are in this movie that are paid off in Endgame or paid off in later movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really, all of the movies that are coming after this have things that are paid off from this film. So yeah, it's honestly what's strange about this movie is like I think to me, Endgame and Infinity War are way above the other movies, just in my mind, right? And I think Avengers, the first Marvel's Avengers, the first Avengers film, I think it's a better movie than this movie. But I'd really rewatch this movie. This movie has so many like cool scenes.
It does.
It's kind of like I see people online. They say like it's a beautiful mess or beautiful disaster or whatever. It is kind of a messy movie.
How
it is
emo.
kind of no, it is though. But
very emo, but okay.
But it's fun though. There's a lot of great scenes, and we're gonna get some of those right now.
Yes.
If you're ready, Brittany. So
let's do it.
What we're doing here today, we're gonna list our top 10 moments in honor of the 10-year anniversary of the film. And spoiler alert, we had more than 10. And we may have combined some in those 10. So, sorry. There's a lot of cool stuff in this movie. It's there's a lot to see here. So let's start it off. And I
have some visuals too, Justin.
We have some visuals, yeah. So
let me know when you want to
an audio listener, you want to check this out on YouTube later on or on Spotify, you can check this out and see the video of this. So we're gonna have some photos from the film in the background as we talk. So here we go.
Sure.
So our number 10 moment is the opening scene, the opening battle scene in Sokovia, and you've got the Avengers flying in action. You got the team photo, which is like, I like how in this movie, in the first Avengers film, you have the circular shot that's like the iconic shot in New York as they're trying to save the city. And this scene, obviously, they're already a team. They're on a mission. They're trying to stop, Hydra, and they're trying to get the scepter from what's his name? Strucker, yeah. And you have this shot where they fly into action, and like the screen kind of pauses for a second so that you can maybe take a picture of it or something.
Well, it does definitely slows down.
Yeah. And this is always like when I think about this movie, I always think about this moment. And I mean, you're meant to, but I think it's a cool way to show they're a team. They're gonna kick some ass, and here we go. Like it's a great like the movie's started and we're off. So I think I'd be remiss if we did mention that one. What do you think about this scene? Would you have included it in your, like, if you did your top 10, would this be in your top 10?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a really cool, like almost like hero shot, right? Yeah, because of the slow-mo and how you see them all operating independently to try to take down their enemies. But then once they meet up, and I mean, Natasha and Clint, for example, were in a vehicle, right? And she like crashes the vehicle. They jump out, to kind of be on the same level of Thor, who can fly, and Captain America, who's, on a motorcycle, but he's got some elevation on there. Yeah. Iron Man, needless to say, is always flying. And then Hulk is just being Hulk. It's fast, it's quick, it's a really great shot. And that slow-mo to then go right back into the action. It's kind of like all gas, no brakes, really, except that was like the one kind of break, I guess you could say. But it's a great visual. I mean, what a way to start a movie, because you think it's going to do a build up to get you to understand the storyline. It's like, nope, we're just going to throw you right into the action, make you, the audience, feel like you're a part of it. And I think it was extremely well done.
Yeah, there's another team up shot at the end of the movie where they're fighting in the church. They're fighting Ultron and his
Yeah.
Iron Legion or his bots, and it's a circular shot. It's pretty cool, but to me, it's not as iconic as this one. So that
I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to
okay,
that point. But
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll make my argument.
But I do want to mention in this scene, it's a very quippy fight. Um, Tony says the first words we hear on the screen are Tony says shit, and then Cap is like language, and then of course that becomes a joke for like 30 or 40 minutes of the movie. And I love how one of my favorites, like funny little scenes is Widow is fighting and she's like, can someone take care of that bunker over there? And Hulk comes away, he smashes it. She's like, thank you. Like, it's such a funny way she says it. I can't obviously do her voice, but it's
she's like, thank you.
That's exactly how she did it. Yeah. So kind of a fun start, very quippy. It's very obviously Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon was this is his thing. He kind of, along with like Robert Downey Jr., they kind of created the humor that template that Marvel has continued to use. So
they really did on the line of shit. Cap says language. And then it just keeps going, right? No one pauses, no one reflects, and it's just go, 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 go. And finally, when it gets to a point where the plan has been devised, they're about to execute it, and Tony comes back with, is no one going to address that Cap said language?
Yeah.
And it's a very like me sort of remark. And I'm like, I feel seen. I feel seen in that moment. It was great. And Cap kind of, he's like, that's never going to live that down, basically. And he's right, because it's kind of brought up throughout the movie. And I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Widow, real quick,
good.
But Widow 2 will have like another cute little line when they're in Korea, when they're chasing down the 18-wheeler for the cradle. I had to think about the word. But yeah, she's got another cute little line that I enjoy, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, I want to highlight King B. Johnson had a comment. He said, talking about ScarJo or talking about Black Widow, he's saying it's her movie early on. I think this movie does a good job of kind of we like all the Avengers kind of get their shine, and I guess that's the point. Whereas later on it's like it's more of like all the Avengers groups or all the groups in the Marvel Cinematic Universe get their shine because you have so many characters. But back in like phase 2, you only had these 6 or so heroes, if you count Fury and other, obviously there's some new heroes that we're going to talk about very soon, but I do think they distributed it very evenly throughout this movie. And that's good because, at this point you've had, we've already had 3 Iron Man movies. You've had 2 Captain America movies. Obviously Hawkeye never had a movie or hasn't had a movie yet. And Black Widow's movie is still years away. So it's nice that they kind of distribute it, even if they lean heavier on those characters that don't have a movie. I do appreciate that. So we go now from number 10, which is our first scene of this movie, basically, to our number 9 on my list, which is the last scene of the movie. And it's the scene where Cap and Nat are addressing the new members of the team. We've got the new Avengers at the new Avengers facility. He's got War Machine, he's got Vision, he's got Sam Wilson and Wanda Maximoff, of course. And Cap says, Avengers. And then the film.
Shoot. No, I'm just kidding.
It cuts off before he can finish saying assemble, his iconic catchphrase.
Yeah.
What'd you think about this scene, Brittany?
Oh, what a way to, leave you hanging, right?
Yeah.
Leading up to that scene, he basically says, conversation with Black Widow, right, about, well, what do you think? And he's like, well, they're not the 27 Yankees.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, that was a strong team from my understanding and whatnot. I wasn't there, don't know, but I like just the lead up, and this kind of also really shows, even though the events of Captain America Winter Soldier have already happened, right? You still see how like Steve and Natasha are able to like work together. They work very well together and have respect for one another and whatnot. And for them to kind of whip these new Avengers into shape, I think is great because he obviously, you know, is America's first super soldier with, asterisk to that. But with Natasha, just given her history and what have you, it's cool that he respects her enough to say, hey, you're like my second in command, and we gotta get these fellas in line, right? So it's cool. It's cool. I like the entrances of each of the new Avengers. Of course, you got Falcon, you got War Machine, Wanda. Love Wanda, absolutely. When she dons like the full on kind of like red black costuming and her hair is all done. She almost doesn't look like herself, really, but it's. Yeah. And then I'm missing the fourth one, Vision. I think it was just really cool. I think for them to each have like their little moment of being inducted into the Avengers team was really, really amazing.
It's really like the only time we see that, really. I mean, we do see like Tony Stark in Infinity War where he like knights Spider-Man as a member of the Avengers, but you don't really see like them, having like a ceremony or any like official, like,
no,
you're an Avenger, they don't really do that. So
no, not at all.
Which that's what they need to do right now, currently. Given the situation, although we do know
there's the copyright issue at hand.
Right. We do have the new Avengers, which I do enjoy, but I do want to mention that Joss Whedon, he always wanted to do something with the symbol because originally he wanted to call the first movie Avengers Some Assembly Required, but it was too kind of jokey.
Sounds very Lego.
He also, in this scene that we just talked about with the new Avengers that we meet in this movie with War Machine and Vision and Sam and Wanda, he wanted to include Captain Marvel and Spider-Man, but Kevin Feige was like, no, we've got other plans for those characters very soon. So
good call.
Put the brakes on that, but yeah, so good stuff. I love that scene. It's one of those ones where like if you say Age of Ultron, I think of that scene. Like it's a very quick, small thing, but it's something that's iconic for the movie. My number 8 is Tony. He convinces Bruce Banner to help him create Ultron using the scepter and using AI to create Ultron. And we get his quote of, "I see a suit of armor around the world." And then Bruce is like, "Sounds like a cold world, Tony." And I do think that's a very important quote. That's why it's my number 8, because of what happens in the movie. Obviously, Ultron turns evil, but Tony, that was his plan. Much like how he's encased in a suit of armor to protect himself and to be a hero, he wants to put a suit of armor around the world to protect it. Given what just happened in Avengers, where the Chitauri army came down, as he said, like the aliens, next time they roll up to the club, what if they can't get past the bouncer? And that's that is Ultron. So that's his plans for Ultron. What did you think about this scene and just the hearing Tony, like, to me, that's a great quote. Just, I see a suit of armor around the world.
It is, because it was really Tony who put everything into motion, right? There's another line or top moment that you have here on our list that I'm not going to, jump ahead to just yet, but without Tony, none of this would have ever happened, right? He would have, the suit of armor wouldn't have led to all the other events that occurred all the way to Endgame, obviously, right? And it's discussed in this movie too about how Ultron doesn't know or understand right from wrong, because Tony, for all intents and purposes, Dr. Frankenstein doesn't understand the right and wrong to a degree, right? And although it's admirable that he tries to protect the world in this fashion using AI, if we've learned anything from watching iRobot, they're going to think for themselves and going to take over. And clearly he didn't watch that movie. So, but yeah, it's everyone blame Tony. he just has to do something, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
also,
it is
if
his
it was,
fault. Yeah.
it is his fault. But we know there's a redemption arc
Yeah.
eventually. So
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on this moment, what'd you think about the scene where Ultron meets Vision, the
my
two
vision.
like AIs that combine, Ultron overtakes Vision, and then we think that Vision is, or not Vision, I'm sorry, Jarvis. We think that Jarvis is maybe dead or destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
but meanwhile he's found his way through the internet and he's hiding and trying to stop Ultron. But what'd you think about hearing James Spader become the villain?
Oh, it was
Yeah.
so fitting. It was so incredibly fitting. And mind you, like I really didn't I wasn't really too familiar with James Spader's work up until that point. Like with
Mhm.
The Office, for example, I was a completely late bloomer with that show. And once I got into it and saw that he was on the show, I'm like, wait a minute, Ultron's on this show? Like, what the hell? Like, this is crazy. But again, his charisma, his ability to just lend his voice solely
Yeah.
to create this villain that is formidable because he keeps evolving, right? Just as you would expect an AI product to do. It's going to constantly evolve. And to kind of justify in a way how Ultron thinks and tries to utilize what history has shown and kind of referencing to some biblical type things and very similar to what's happening in today's society. So it's like we're
Yeah.
not too far off, people. But I think with James Spader's performance as Ultron was really well done. I love that first scene when we get to see Ultron very disassembled, disoriented, and quoting Tony to the Avengers at the Avengers Tower, therefore revealing Tony, what did you do? And talking about or not talking about, but when he's destroyed, but moves through technology to Strucker's headquarters and is like powering up all the other like androids that were there, and you're hearing Pinocchio, I got no
Yep.
strings, and I'm like, ooh, that was so extremely well thought in the sense
Yeah.
of storytelling. I've got no strings on me. It's chilling, actually. It's chilling because it's taking a Disney a fairy tale and then applying it to like a real world situation that this this being was supposed to be a suit of armor to protect the world, but it's actually going to attack the world.
Yeah.
It's very chilling.
Well, the way to protect the world is to destroy human beings, to make the Avengers a sting.
As you do.
Yeah, exactly. So for my number 7 moment, so in number 8, we have the creation of Ultron. Number 7, we have the Vision is born, and he wields Thor's hammer to prove that he's worthy. Which, don't worry, like the hammer scene will come. We're gonna talk about the hammer scene later on. It's very high on my list. It's one of my favorite scenes. Really in the MCU, it's a great scene. But to focus on Vision's, to focus on when he is born, right before it happens, the Avengers are facing off in the lab, which is kind of like hinting toward what we'll see in Captain America, Civil War. You see Tony and Steve facing off. They're at odds over, should Tony use the scepter you know, to bring Vision to life, this body that they got that was created by Ultron and Helen Cho, who was under his or under Wanda's mind control in her what is it, cradle, her
Well, not
Genesis
so much
cradle?
Wanda's mind control. It was actually the scepter. It
The
was
scepter. Yeah,
the
that's right.
mind
Okay.
stone in
Yeah.
the scepter.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in theory, you could say Wanda, but
Yeah, no, I
because
think you're
she
right.
was
Yeah.
created by the mind stone, but no.
Yeah, it was a scepter. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what'd you think about this scene and just about how and also like as a kind of a combo, how Thor, he is like the one who's the most focused on the Infinity Stones, which, up until now we had heard of them in Guardians a little bit, but that's it. We didn't really know what the stones were, and in this movie
Right.
reveals like 4 of them, at least in a vision it does.
Because by that point we had at least been exposed to all 4 of the Infinity Stones
Yeah.
multiple times, right? In Avengers, it was the Tesseract. Well, even you can go back to Thor and say it was, the Tesseract. The Tesseract, sorry, Captain America.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? We've been exposed to it several times. Okay. You have the Tesseract. You have the Ether, which was in Thor Dark World. And then you had the purple one from Guardians.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is they weren't referred to as Infinity Stones.
No. I know. But my point is that we had been exposed to them. And then now the payoff comes in this movie where you're learning what they are and how significant they are, not just to Earth, but the universe as a whole. And we, of course, didn't know at that time that there were more Infinity Stones to be revealed. But for Thor, I thought it was kind of curious for Thor, of all people, to discover this, because for Bruce and Tony to create something purely for like science, technology perspective kind of thing, and not knowing and understanding what the scepter truly was, like what was in it contained, but you're going to create something out of it and not know how it's going to behave. I mean, you saw that the twins were also created out of the scepter, aka Mind Stone.
Yeah.
And you saw how that went, right? It's kind of like Captain America when Dr. Erskine had said about injecting the super soldier serum. You inject into a good person, they do better. You inject into a bad person, they do worse, basically, right? Same kind of concept. But yet that risk that Bruce and Tony took, it started a ripple effect for Thor, who is a god for all intents and purposes, and to kind of dabble into like the mystical type of things, lore, and for him to be the one to say, no, this needs to happen, to me it was very surprising. I actually really like that Thor had a moment where the bickering was happening, but he made that definitive decision of, no, this is something to our benefit, the Mind Stone. We can wield it, we can use it, and we can protect the universe with this. I thought it was really powerful for Thor.
Yeah, and he basically sees the Infinity Stones through a vision, right? And that's what the next moment is.
The
Number
irony.
6 on our list is Wanda induces nightmare visions for the entire team. Let's talk through some of these. So in Tony's vision, he sees the death of his teammates. We see they're all piled up. Captain America is the one that talks and says, you could have saved us. Why didn't you do more? And then, then like Thor, he sees Heimdall at a party or at like at an event. And then, Cap, he sees Peggy and they're having their dance. And she says, the war is over, Steve. We can go home. And, Black Widow sees what happened to her at the Widow program. And we'll talk about more of that later on as we move down the list. And, Hawkeye is the one who's like, no, I'm not a part of the mind control thing. That happened to me in the first movie. So
Not
I'm
a fan.
avoiding that. Not a fan of that. And then you get Hulk, who
we don't know what he saw.
No, we don't know what he saw, but we know what he does. And we're going to get to that in a second. But
yeah,
Brittany, as a whole, what'd you think about the vision scenes and the dream scenarios that Wanda conjures up in this movie?
I think it illustrated just a teeny weeny bit how powerful this enhanced being truly was. I mean, that was just a taste, right? We got that little intro of how powerful she was, and I was very confused because it was just like, is she showing them what they want? You know what I mean? Or making them relive their twisted reality, but as a nightmare. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was at the time, it was just very like, whoa, what is she doing? Is she twisting their minds about and what have you? And I'm thinking, that's really cool. It's really bad, but it's really cool. I kind of want those powers because I could, utilize them to my benefit. But I think learning how the Mind Stone affected her and gave her these powers, and just how she manipulate her powers to do the bidding of Ultron. But then eventually you see how she would manipulate those powers for good or better. But the nightmare scene was really, really interesting, really cool, how quickly she could take people down. Her brother's fast, like super fast, right? But like she could take people out really quick with just the little, hand movements and, things like that, which is, I think, really cool. Leslie Olsen like killed it with her performance as Wanda in this movie, and she continued to kill it throughout.
Yeah.
Throughout.
Yeah, little did we know she would be a major player going forward.
Oh,
Maybe some people did know that. Yeah. So
brava.
So you mentioned Hulk about how we don't see what his vision was, but we see what happens to him, and he's enraged, and that leads to our number 5 on the list: Hulk versus the Hulkbuster. You see, Tony calls in Veronica, which Veronica is the name for the Hulkbuster suit that Tony wears to fight Hulk as they're raging through Johannesburg, I believe, is where they are.
It's Johannesburg, in South Africa.
Yeah. You get I love the scene where Tony's like punching him real fast in the face. He's like, "Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep."
Yeah.
And then Hulk spits out the tooth, and Tony's like, "I'm sorry."
Well, so those are 2 different instances actually, and I only know this because it's like my favorite.
Well, I mean,
one of my
it's
favorite
that,
scenes.
that scene though.
It's in that sequence, yes. But Tony in the Hulkbuster will like basically throw the elevator on top of Hulk, smash his face into the ground with a punch afterwards. Hulk spits out the tooth, and then it's literally just Tony with big brown eyes and just, "I'm sorry." It's just so great. It is such a funny scene to me. Like, Robert Downey, I swear, like I just want to know, were they just kind of spitballing these ideas? Was it just total improvisation, or like let actors do what they do best, obviously, right? And it paid off. It's one of the funniest lines in this whole entire movie. But go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep is just, it's just so iconic, because to see Tony have to bulk up with his suit in order to take down Hulk was hilarious. And then ultimately Tony would have to fly Hulk across the city, looking for like a vacant, abandoned something or other, a building in this case, to kind of drop Hulk through. And it's like, how quickly can we buy this building? Just you gotta think on your feet, bro. Like, it's a great scene. I would have liked to have known what Hulk's nightmare or vision would have been that led him to Hulk out, and everything else, pan out the way
It
that
is
it did.
terrifying though to see his face. Yeah, I mean, even obviously when he's just the Hulk and he's trying to help people as much as he can, he's out of control. But whenever you see him fully enraged and like,
oh man,
driven mad, it is a terrifying scene. And this is one of the biggest action scenes in the MCU to this point.
Yeah, and even like the mere mention from Tony saying, that little witch is messing with your mind. You're better than this. You're stronger than her. You're Bruce Banner. Okay, oh no, don't mention puny Bruce. Like, it's so great. It's a very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of situation, and I think that was very well illustrated for that moment.
Yeah. So from a big action scene to a big location where you have a lot of character moments. Let's talk about my number 4 moment, Hawkeye's safe house, aka the farmhouse. And we're going to combine that with the Nat and Bruce storyline that Brittany was talking about earlier. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the safe house with Hawkeye. We meet his wife Laura, his 2 kids. He has another baby on the way. Like the team is there to regroup, and no one knew that Laura existed. No one knew anything about Hawkeye, honestly. Even except for Nat. She knew.
Of course. Yeah. Or like how Tony referred to the wife, this is an agent, and then the little kids, these are smaller agents.
Yeah, love it.
Great explanation.
Yeah. And you see like Thor, he's already had this vision, so he's like, I've got to get answers. I can't get him here. He leaves immediately. There's really so many scenes here at the farmhouse that we can go into. I really enjoy the part where Laura is looking out the window talking to her husband Clint, and she sees, Cap and Iron Man are down there chopping wood, and she says, I support your avenging. I couldn't be prouder of you, but I see those guys, those gods down there, and Clint's like, you don't think they need me? She's like, no, I think they do, which is scarier. And like that's such a great moment because it's like he is just a regular person. Obviously, he's highly trained and he's this incredible archer, but he doesn't have any superpowers. But they do need someone like that on their team, and
Yeah.
that is a great moment.
And the juxtaposition of that now, knowing what has happened to Jeremy Renner since these movies, right? Since the conclusion of the Infinity Saga and whatnot, and all that he's endured physically, right? There was actually a line that Hawkeye says earlier in the movie when he's been injured in Sokovia, right? That's why Nat needed the bunker taken down because he got struck. And Dr. Cho, with her fantastic technology, is able to basically mimic tissue and rebuild his skin. And there was a line in there. He's like, oh, oh no, I'm going to live forever. And then just, again, knowing what Jeremy went through just a couple of years ago, he literally almost died and fought for his life and has had a remarkable recovery, of course. And truly, the Avengers do need him. Like, how people can have their opinion, of course, about his role, however minor or major, what have you. Like, say what you want, but like, he is also just as important as the rest of the Avengers. He might not have a solo film ever, but I think just knowing what we know now, and then hearing and rewatching these scenes, of course, from this movie, it's just really crazy how like life pans out, and for the conversation between his on-screen wife and him, and saying it's like, no, I think they need you, and that's what's even scarier, right? And it's like, you don't realize how much you need people until you're potentially without them. And so I think it's just crazy. It's crazy how all this has played out.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, of course, like he's not even in Infinity War, the next Avengers movie, but he is a huge part of Endgame. He opens Endgame with his family, so having them snap. So they really did so well with these characters, the way they use them here and there. Like not all of them were in every movie, but like they kind of perfectly played their parts, and the way that it was constructed was just so great. It's one of the Infinity Saga is what we're all kind of looking to recapture with what's coming with the
Doomsday.
Doomsday and just the multiverse saga going into the mutant saga, which will be next. So
so excited.
So I mentioned the chopping wood scene. I think we got to talk about that a little bit.
Yes,
I love that
we
do. Tony and Cap are chopping some wood, and Tony says, "I don't trust a guy without a dark side." And Steve's like, "Yeah, you haven't seen it yet." And then they're talking about what Tony and Banner were doing, and obviously Steve did not agree with that. And he's saying like, what you're doing would end the team. And then Tony's like, well, isn't that the mission that we end the fight so we can go home, and then they see the iconic shot of Captain America ripping the log with his bare hands. And then I love the part where then Laura comes out and kind of breaks it up, and she's like, oh, Mr. Stark, we're having trouble with our tractor. Could you go take a look at it? And Tony's like, yeah, I'll go take a look. And then he says, don't take from my pile. And obviously his pile of wood is considerably smaller than Captain America's. But I mean, again, such a funny little scene, but a great scene that shows the impending rift between the two characters.
I mean, is Steve immune to getting splinters?
Maybe so.
Just curious. I mean, also, wow.
Yeah.
Him in that Under Armour shirt. Perfection. Sorry. Not sorry.
That shirt was hanging off for dear life.
Ooh, boy, was it.
Yeah.
Wish we had a picture of that, Justin, but whatever. It's fine.
I only could find so many photos. So
I'm sure it's on a loop. I'm sure that someone out there did a loop like that's on YouTube that's like 10 hours long. Him just like ripping the log apart.
There's definitely a GIF or a GIF I don't know, whichever one whatever you want to call it.
GIF.
I say GIF. Yeah.
It's a GIF.
And our podcast is a gift to you.
It is. It's a gift. Shout out to M Moves, who's also showing us support in the chat, saying hit that like button.
Yeah,
yes,
we appreciate it.
If you're new to our channel, also consider subscribing, but also show us some love. Hit the like button. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks for being here. We'd love to hear your thoughts on your top moment or moments of Age of Ultron. Yeah,
let us know in the chat. What's your favorite moment from the movie? Your favorite moments? Because there's a lot. We're making our way through this, but we're still on number 4. And I love how we get Nick Fury, his arrival, and he basically is there to rally the Avengers, to get them back on course, to stop Ultron.
I have a question for you, Justin. I'm going to digress a little bit.
Sure.
Is that Nick Fury, or is that decoy Nick Fury?
No, that's Nick Fury.
Okay. There's theories out there that that's not the actual Nick Fury. That might be the Skrull Nick Fury.
Oh gosh.
I know.
Let's not bring up Secret Invasion.
We won't.
That was a tough one. That was a tough one for the brand. It's a tough one for us. We watched it. We did enjoy it. We're moving on.
We're moving on. Let's talk about Nat and Bruce.
Let's get to that because, this in the farmhouse, they have a scene and we're going to talk about that. But let's talk about their scenes throughout the movie together because it is a big part of this film.
It is.
The Nat and Bruce / Hulk relationship, which kind of sort of comes out of nowhere. Obviously the first Avengers movie, she's the one who goes to recruit Banner to get him on the team.
Yep.
But this is coming off of Captain America Winter Soldier, where she's very flirty with Steve, although she's constantly trying to hook him up with other people or get him to be interested in his coworkers or people that live near him or whatever. Yeah. So it was kind of strange how she's so flirty. She's going after him hard, honestly.
And Steve remarks that too during their party in Avengers Tower, where Steve's like, oh, it's nice. It's like, what, oh, you and Romanoff, it's nice to see this interaction. He goes, trust me. He goes, I've been up close and know how her flirting may be and this and that. And to which later on, Bruce finally catches on. He's like, what do you mean up close? It clicked. And then it's like, wait a minute, that's my woman. What are you talking about? How are you familiar with her like that? It was really cute. Yeah. But it really did come out of left field. I really wish that this had been fleshed out a little bit better and a little bit more so, because then even after this movie and other movies, when they're reunited in Endgame, it's like it never happened.
Or is it Infinity War?
It's Endgame.
Endgame? Sure?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Or maybe Infinity. No, because he was Professor Hulk by that point. Remember?
No. He. I think it's Infinity War because it's after he comes back to Earth to tell everybody about Thanos.
I know, but what I'm saying is, after that period of time too, after the 5 years, with the blip and what have you, and they're like, hey, we're trying to get the team back together to do this time machine thing.
Oh, right.
And they have that awkward interaction in the diner. It's as if they were never into each other. And I'm like, this is very strange. This is very weird. It's like it got dropped in a weird way, and then it just fizzled out in a weird way. I don't know.
I do like how she's the only one who can calm him down when he's Hulk with her lullaby, where she's just, hey,
how do you come up with that too? Again, I wish this was fleshed out a little bit better. How do you come up with that lullaby?
It's just a funny line that I enjoy, where she says, hey, big guy, sun's getting real low.
To which Thor will repeat that multiple times in Ragnarok. Oh, sun's getting real low. He's like, stop it.
But let's talk about their conversation at the farmhouse, because in this scene, Banner's coming out of the shower and he tells her, hey, there's no hot water. They used it all up. And she's like, oh, I should have joined you, but I didn't think it was the right moment.
As you do.
So, and then they get into a very, heavy conversation about how here they are in this farmhouse with this family, and Bruce is saying I can't have this. I can't have a family. And then she reveals that she can't either because of how at the Red Room, they sterilized her.
Yeah.
And then she said a
Rough,
line.
y'all.
Yeah, she said
Rough.
a tough line that she says where she's like, you still think you're the only monster on the team. And it's like,
Ooh.
you know, she was obviously forced into being a widow as a child, and they did terrible things to her. They trained her to be a killer. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't really call it. I mean, her calling herself a monster is kind of tough. But what'd you think about this interaction between the two characters?
It's an incredibly vulnerable, authentic, raw conversation that it's clear that they are in like with one another, you know,
Yeah.
and to be that honest and that transparent about how can we do this, like we just can't, you know, the nature of who they are, their profession, if you will. And for Natasha, who's always been so guarded, right? She
Yeah.
doesn't ever reveal anything about herself, about her past, other than saying she's got red in her ledger. That's why she wanted to save Hawkeye in the first Avengers movie, right? And but you never really learn about her. And for her to be that open with just him on the team because she is running with it, as she said, she's going for it and is hoping that he feels the same. And when he ultimately says this, you know, just this can't happen, it's very defeating because you pour your heart out, you wear your emotions on your sleeve, as far as emotions go for Natasha, but it's very, it's just very raw, and and I feel that, you know, like I get it. I get it, especially with someone that you really care about and you are hoping to maybe have a future with them. It's it's a tough moment for her,
Yeah.
but I liked how this movie showed the more personal side of who they are other than just being heroes.
Yeah. No, that's well said. Yeah, I wish they would have kind of had more of a payoff with this relationship and maybe continued it in some way.
So
I
weird.
I mean, I do like how the movie ends between the two because that sets up like, oh, we can't wait till they reunite. And then when they reunite, it's just awkward and then it goes
Mhm.
nowhere. But
Yeah.
I do want to mention that there's a couple more scenes where they interact, and then one of them is after Ultron's captured Natasha, Bruce comes and sets her free, and then they're escaping, and then she kisses him, and then she pushes him in
She's
this
like, "I
hole.
adore you."
Yeah, I adore you, but I need the other guy, meaning she wants the Hulk to come out and
Mhm.
play. And
Yeah.
then finally, like I said, I do think the ending is very well done where, Hulk, he he Ultron is taking over the Quinjet. Hulk jumps, in the sky, grabs onto the jet, gets in the
And
plane, rips. Yeah,
Ultron is like, "Oh, for God's sakes."
yeah, yeah,
I forgot about that line.
yeah.
Sorry.
Rips Ultron out of the plane, throws him out, and then Hulk takes the Quinjet and just flies off despite Natasha, like, telling him, like, "Hey, sun's getting real low. Come on, big guy, like, come back. We can't track you if you're in stealth." And
Yeah.
then, we don't see him again until Thor Ragnarok when he's, that's where we next
The
see him. So,
champion.
yeah. So, like I said, I do like that ending, but I wish there would have been some kind of, like, when they saw each other would have been a really big moment, and that just did not happen.
No,
Yeah.
it really did. I feel like it was just a very kind of let's experiment with this and see how audiences
Yeah.
respond to it. But yeah, ultimately, this is one of the many things in the MCU that just kind of got thrown into it, and then it just didn't go anywhere, and
Yeah.
that's a little disappointing. But it is what it is.
No doubt. So my number 4 moment was a supersized, a Hulk-sized moment. So and it's full of character moments. And my number 3 is another character moment. Let's get to it. So number 3 is Hawkeye's speech to Wanda and then Pietro's sacrifice. So with the Wanda speech, after, Wanda and her brother teamed up with Ultron originally because they hated Tony Stark because their childhood home was bombed and they saw the Stark Industries missile, and so they blamed him for what happened to their parents. And so now you see, years later they have these powers, and now they've decided to work with Ultron, or Ultron kind of recruits them. They team up to stop the Avengers, and then obviously she's turned to the good side, and um, she's freaking out because it's just like it's crazy. They're in this battle in Sokovia. They're fighting these robots that are everywhere, and her and Hawkeye, fall into this like abandoned like business or whatever. And
Mhm.
she's like, how could I let this happen? This is all their fault.
Mhm.
And Hawkeye's like, he's like, look at me. It's your fault. It's everyone's fault. Who cares? He's like, are you up for this? Like I just need to know because the city is flying. He's like, the city's flying. We're fighting an army of robots, and I'm a guy with a bow and arrow. Like, and then he's
Doesn't
like,
make
but
any
I'm
sense.
yeah, none of this makes sense. He's like, but I'm gonna go back out there because it's my job. And he's like, you can. He's like, you can do this job. Like, I can't do this job and babysit. He's like, so you can stay here. And that's cool. Stay inside. I'll have your brother come pick you up. He's like, but if you go out there, he's like, you're going out there, you're going to fight and you fight to kill. And he's like, and if you go out there, you're an Avenger. And I do love the payoff because, then she comes out and she's just like full of fire. Yeah.
Magnificently.
And just
My God.
starts killing those robots, just
Just
destroying them left and right. Yeah. So I always think about that scene because it's so cool how he basically gives her a pep talk like, look, hey,
Yeah.
like, you step out that door, you're an Avenger. And
Yeah.
so, all that happened in the past doesn't matter. Let's focus on right now.
Yeah.
And if you help us out, you're an Avenger. And so
I
very
mean,
cool stuff.
it's quite the redemption arc for her character, right? This is our first introduction truly to the Maximoff twins, and for her having played with their minds, right? Their nightmares, and her having uh tricked Tony, if you will, in a way to take the scepter to therefore create the AI and everything else that transpired thereafter. Yeah, it's her fault. It's her fault just as much as it is Tony's, right?
Yeah.
And the redemption arc for her to step out of that building to fight on the Avengers side, right? Even Pietro at one point, he said this is Shield, when he sees Shield uh helicarriers coming in and bringing on all the people of Sokovia onto their uh hovercrafts. He's like, this isn't so bad. Like,
Yeah.
not everything is as it seems, and this
Right.
is very true for these characters as well. Had they been molded into being better people, they would have done good things. They would have done better things, but they were molded for evil, bad.
Yeah.
But I think for Wanda to have this very powerful moment, because it was kind of like the start in a way of women in the MCU having their moment and it being strong and powerful and just taking things head on. And it paid off ultimately in Endgame when you have like that team up of all the female
Yeah.
heroes take on Thanos, and it was just like, oh, it's so cool. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just so great. And then the casting, of course, is phenomenal. I love her. I love her
Yeah.
character, right? That's why I picked her in my draft, y'all. Like, she was great. Talk about the most powerful being in the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Scarlet Witch is an awesome character for
Hell
sure.
yeah.
And in this movie, we see her brother Pietro, Quicksilver, although he's never called Quicksilver in the movie. He makes the ultimate sacrifice. He saves Hawkeye and a kid that Hawkeye was trying to rescue. After spending most of the movie, he's kind of, giving Hawkeye a hard time, and using his speed powers. And, oh, you didn't see that coming. You didn't see that coming. And then when he gets in front of the bullets, he dies. And he's like, I bet you didn't see that coming. And he slumps over. Um, Brittany, what'd you think about Pietro's death?
Again, another redemption arc right here,
Yeah.
right? To make that ultimate sacrifice is a huge moment for the character and then the supporting characters around that one person. And the callback to for Pietro to say, I bet you didn't see that coming. That was the first thing that he had said specifically to Clint, and then that's the last thing that he said to Clint as he had saved him, right?
Yeah.
And just when he completely collapses and you see just how many bullets he took was just like, wow, like,
Yeah.
like without a thought, right? He shifted his mindset and definitely in his final moments was a hero. Sidebar, I also think it's crazy too that these two actors, Aaron Taylor Johnson and Lizzie Olsen, have played a married couple in the Godzilla movie. I can't remember which one because there's so many of them. But it's the one that has Bryan Cranston in it. Anyway, they played a married couple, and then in this movie they're playing brother and sister. I'm like, this is just weird. Just very, very weird.
That Godzilla movie came out like a year before this movie, I think.
Yeah. So obviously they have great chemistry on screen, and I was just very like, wait a minute. I'm like, I've seen these two before. This is uncalled for. And then eventually we'll see Aaron Taylor Johnson take on another Marvel character in Kraven the Hunter, which we will not ever do a review on that movie because it was that bad. He looked great. I mean, here he also looks great too. He's very fit, and obviously he's supposed to be very fast and what have you. But not a good movie.
Kraven, the less said, the better. Probably. Let's move on. But after Pietro's death, you see Wanda's reaction once she learns that her twin brother is dead.
I mean, she felt it.
She goes off. She kills the main Ultron robot, rips his robot heart out, and crushes it.
I have to say her accent was great in this movie, and then it just like eventually fizzled out throughout the remainder of the movies, including WandaVision. I'm just like, what happened? Like, why are we abandoning the accent? It's like so everywhere. But yeah, I liked how she visually put it plain to Ultron's face. It's like, do you know how that felt? And you know, with her powers, yanks out the heart, if you will, of the android, and she's like, it felt like that, and it's like, it's so cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
Yeah, no, she's so powerful.
Oh yeah.
Moving on to number 2. We're at number 2, and this is like not a big like action piece moment or anything, but this is a major moment for the franchise because Tony Stark says the Endgame, which of course becomes the greatest superhero movie, in my opinion, ever made. It's my favorite movie of all time. It's the highest grossing superhero movie ever made. And obviously it's the crown jewel of the Infinity Saga. Tony, basically, when he's being questioned by the rest of the members of the Avengers about after they learned about how he and Bruce created Ultron, Tony explains that, like, you know, much like before about creating the suit armor around the world, he explains that, you know, that up there pointing up to the sky, that's the end game. You know, how are you guys planning on beating that? And Steve says, together. And Tony responds, we'll lose. And Steve says, then we'll do that together too. So I do love that moment. Obviously it becomes big in Endgame later on. There's kind of a callback to that when Steve and Tony are reunited at the beginning of Endgame. Just a great moment. Really, really enjoy it. And it's like I said, it's a small moment, but it's a big moment. And you see, like, this is where the team is kind of coming apart. It's also kind of what we see, the beginning is of the ripple that happens, that we get the payoff in Captain America: Civil War. But it's a really cool scene. It's it's just whenever you get Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans together, there's just like electricity between those two characters and those two actors. And that's why I think that for sure we're going to see Chris Evans return in Doomsday, because it's RDJ's movie. Chris Evans is his bud. He's going to be back. But Brittany, I want to get your thoughts. What did you think about when Tony Stark said that's the end game? Because I remember when originally Infinity War was a two-parter. It was called Infinity War Part 1 and Infinity War Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided to call it different. It wasn't clear what the name was going to be. And I did hear people saying, like, it might be called Endgame because Tony says Endgame. And lo and behold, it became Avengers Endgame. What do you think about the scene where Tony explains about, hey, the next time the aliens come, like, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to give it to him for trying to be proactive and thinking ahead, right? Because for him personally, the events of New York with the Chitauri coming through and him also almost making the ultimate sacrifice with taking that nuke into space, he almost didn't make it out of that hole, right? That I don't know if you call it a wormhole or whatever, but it was so traumatic for him that he was going to do everything in his power to protect the world and those that he cared he cared for the most. And so for him to make the remark of, that's the end game. And then I would have never guessed in a million years that was going to be the final movie title for Avengers Endgame, right? I remember it being teased and people saying, "Oh, it's something that Tony Stark had said in an earlier movie, but would not say from what specific movie." Because I mean, he says so many iconic things, and it's, again, for this movie, and this is why I love this movie so much. It laid the foundation and gave us all like the clues and the things that we needed to prepare ourselves for Infinity War and for Endgame, because those are two of the most epic movies I think in modern day history. And for Tony to be the one to kind of say this, not kind of, but to say this, and then going even further back, knowing that Tony Stark, Iron Man movie is what started the MCU, and then he did make the ultimate sacrifice in Endgame. It was just so well done. Such good storytelling.
Yeah.
So well done. Obviously, because we're still talking about it however many years later.
Yeah, and for us, for the watchers, is a big moment because it was the first Marvel thing we talked about.
Yes, it really was. It really, really was. And doing that pod back in the studio and actually in the basement, and having our little end, like our little ending. I'm not going to spoil it here, y'all, because I would definitely want y'all to go back to that pod and check it out. We're dressed up. We're dressed up for the occasion. We're ready for it. We saw the movie multiple times. Saw it in IMAX. It was so good. But
we were
y'all
cosplayers, not great cosplayers, but we were cosplaying a little bit. Yeah, you should definitely go in our archives and look for our Avengers Endgame review, and be sure to watch the end. Just like with the MCU, you got to watch all the way through the credits. So be sure to watch the very end because it's very cool.
Yeah, because you might miss something just like that.
Yeah. In a snap, you might miss something. So definitely go back and check that out. That was honestly a super fun moment. Love doing that kind of stuff. Would love to do something like that in the future.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah. So moving on, we're to number one on my list. The top moment, I believe, in Avengers Age of Ultron. And that's the party scene. That's when we find out that the Avengers attempt to lift Thor's hammer. And in the same moment, we see Ultron take form. But let's get to the hammer talk, because obviously we're just talking about Endgame, and one of the biggest moments in the history of cinema, as far as like crowd reaction, is when Cap calls for Mjolnir, and then
Mew mew.
Yeah, and then Thor's like, "I knew it." The reason why he knew it is because in this movie, they do like a test of strengths to see who can lift Thor's hammer. Hawkeye's up first; he can't do it. Then we got Tony.
It's a trick.
Yeah. Then we got Tony, and Tony's like, "If I lift it, then I rule Asgard, right?" And he's like, "I'll be reinstituting Prima Nocta," which, if you don't know what Prima Nocta is, look it up. It's
Tony was tapping into his Playboy days by saying that.
Yeah, Tony's going for it. Tony tries. He puts on an Iron Man glove. He can't do it. He has Rhodey help him. Rhodey's in the War Machine get up. He can't do it either. We see Banner try, and he does like a fake Hulk out, like to be funny. Yeah. And then it's time for Captain America, Steve Rogers. And Steve Rogers gets up there, gives it his best, and the hammer moves slightly.
And
Thor notices. You can see he notices it. And so, like I said, I love when they give us something like this and they have a big callback, which is obviously one of the biggest callbacks ever in any movie, was this, and then what happens in Endgame. And so that's why this is easily my number one. This is like, when you say Avengers Age of Ultron, this is the first thing that pops in my mind, is this scene right here. I mean, the whole party scene is a fun scene, but I mean, this right here especially is, to me, the best of the best. Brittany, what'd you think about the hammer scene?
I think Thor was really worried in that moment that Steve would actually pick up the hammer and rule Asgard, leaving Thor where to do what? You know, that's his home. Steve is not from Asgard, and not saying he wouldn't rule it well, nor would he want to rule it at all, but it did get Thor very worried in that moment. And then not just, it wasn't just Steve who obviously was able to have some sort of effect with the hammer. Vision too. Vision straight up picked it up from the end table.
He proves how worthy he is. Yeah.
And handed it to Thor, walked away, and Thor's like twirling the hammer in his hand. He's like, yeah, well, let's go. It's like, is Vision aware about the significance of being able to wield Thor's hammer? Does he understand that he too can rule Asgard as a result? And I remember this came up in conversation in one of our pods about how many people have actually been able to wield the hammer, right? And I don't know, it's a fun conversation to have, obviously, because then you kind of forget about some people, and this is kind of like one of those moments for me personally. I was like, oh yeah, like I forgot that Vision like straight up like picked it up and handed it to Thor, like, dude, we gotta go. But yeah, that scene for Steve, and then it took some time, it took some movies, it took some years. That God, I'll never forget that moment, Justin, when we were rewatching Endgame in IMAX, and those guys sitting next to us clearly hadn't seen the movie, and we were waiting for that moment to happen. And when it did, the guy next to us, fuck yeah.
Yeah. He was pumped. That guy
was into it. Yeah, so good. So good.
No, Endgame, like if it were in theaters right now, I'd go watch it. I've seen that movie probably 40 times. I'm not even kidding. I got the Blu-ray the second it came out. Actually, I got it before it came out. I had to hook up. That was pretty cool. And obviously I've watched it on Disney Plus many times also.
Yeah. So. And I would be remiss, Justin, if I didn't give a shout out to our girl, Black Widow, who was asked to see about testing her worthiness. And she's like, oh, no, that's not a question I need answered. And there is a theory out there in the fandom of the MCU that she actually probably could pick up the hammer and be worthy, because although she has done so many bad things throughout her career as a Black Widow, her trying to do good by joining SHIELD and this and that, what have you, she has nothing that she's hiding. And that was like supposed significant difference between her and Steve, because Steve was still withholding information about Tony's parents and how Bucky played into Tony's parents' death, supposedly. But yeah, it's like, yeah, Steve was there. He just needed to be honest about that. But Black Widow supposedly could wield the hammer and rule Asgard. I'm here for it. I think it should be great.
Yeah, that would be cool. So that's our number one moment. We want to know your number one moment or your favorite moments from the movie. Let us know in the chat below. We appreciate, or let us know in the comment section. We appreciate that. Before we get out of here, we have some honorable mentions because there's so many things to consider. These didn't make the cut, but they're very close. One of the first ones I want to mention is the final battle. I know it sounds strange to not have the final battle in the movie, but there's just so many character moments I thought were more important. But the final battle scene, as Friday says, Sokovia is going for a ride. You have this floating city, and you've got, Captain America is determined to save every civilian on the ground, in the air. You've got Fury coming to save the day with the lifeboats, with the helicarrier and the lifeboats. And then you have Tony and Thor taking care of the falling city once you've got the people off the landmass. And then of course you see Vision kill the final Ultron bot. And I mean, the fight scene is so long. It's like a 30-minute battle. But Brittany, what did you think about the climactic battle in this movie?
No, I think it was great just to show the different aspects of what each team member was dealing with in the area that they were in. Obviously with Captain America and the bridge and like the cars like falling off of it and trying, like you said, save everyone. And that's difficult. Of course, I always love them showing Steve's strength. It's wonderful to look at. But I have this photo here up on screen for those who may be just listening to us on audio, but it's kind of like a team up, right?
Yeah.
It's a team up of the Avengers in the church where that big, whatever you call it, Ultron has created to basically make the earth go boom. But in this scene where everyone starts like fighting off all the androids, I keep calling them androids, probably not the right word. Doesn't matter. The robots, the Ultron, legionnaires, whatever.
Iron Legion, yeah.
Iron Legion. You kind of get that rotating effect like you did with the first Avengers movie, this hero shot. But what I like about this scene as opposed to the one from Avengers is that the Avengers were just kind of like standing still. They're preparing, right? Natasha is like loading up her gun. Thor has his hammer, he spins it. Hulk roars. Cap's got his joke. But in this movie, and you have like the rotating hero effect, everyone is kicking ass, right? And I think iconic to this particular scene is Captain America launching off the stones and like spinning horizontally in midair, and eventually kicking ass and taking names. And I've seen that behind the scenes footage so many times of the stunt person who does that. And it's just so cool. It's just actually so cool to see and know that someone can actually really do that. It's not CGI. It's a real thing that someone can physically do with their body. And I think it's that, for me, is what is really impactful and really cool. It's like you're getting that hero shot, like a nod to the beginning where they're in action. They're about to start taking people down. But I really enjoy this particular action shot scene.
And there's like a slow motion flash, just like kind of what happens in the opening scene. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, it's very cool. To me, it's not as iconic just because it's so busy. There's so many, robots in the air, and there's like so many people fighting. It's like really, you do focus on the Cap spin more than anything else. But, but
like Wanda's at the very top, and she's, basically saying it's my, this is my job, to protect the thing from anyone approaching it, and she's like doing her cool like hand and arm movements to protect everything. I think it's a really cool scene.
It is very cool. Another thing that we didn't mention that is an honorable mention is the mid-credit scene. Famously, Thanos saying, "Fine, I'll do it myself," where he dons the golden gauntlet, and then he vows to retrieve the Infinity Stones by himself.
So my question to that is, because the first time I think we saw the gauntlet was in Thor. Oh God, was it in Thor where Hela was there? No.
That's after Ragnarok I'm sorry. Yeah, Ragnarok's after this. So I think it's the first time we see the gauntlet, right?
Okay, but the gauntlet, then where did Thanos get the gauntlet? Like, did he get it off of Asgard? And it's like, because Hela's like walking through all like the treasures that are within Asgard vault, and she's like, fake, that might be good, but I think she looks at the gauntlet and says fake. Okay. So I wonder if like Thanos purposefully went to Asgard, got the real one, and then switched it out with like the fake one.
Possibly.
Also, how did he get there?
That gauntlet though is golden though. It is shiny.
Very shiny.
And of course, letting us know what's coming for the Avengers. So very cool moment. There's a couple, also I liked all the references to Wakanda. Obviously, like I said, this movie is a great setup movie for what's to come in phase 3.
Do you mean Wakanada?
Wakanada, yeah. As Bruce Banner calls it, Wakanada, yeah. Wakanada, not a bad interpretation of Wakanda. I mean, as far as the pronunciation, it's fair. But no, obviously that was telling us like, hey, Black Panther's coming. So, and of course, in Captain America: Civil War is when we first get Black Panther on the screen. But
R.I.P. Chadwick.
Yeah. But no, definitely loved, like I said, all the setup work that's in this movie, the way that it sets the groundwork for what's going to happen in phase 3, which phase 3 was obviously Marvel's biggest phase.
For sure.
Most profitable phase. It was really the one where, they were really just killing it at the box office. A couple of funny things. There's some funny items I want to mention. Like I like the part at the beginning when Tony's flying the Quinjet and he's like, "Hey Jarvis, take the wheel," which is like kind of a reference to Jesus take the wheel. And then you see the dashboard where it says Jarvis is my co-pilot. It's the sticker there, which is also Jesus is my co-pilot. Some people have that on their
Yeah.
dashboard. I thought that's funny.
Yeah.
I love the part where Maria Hill talking to Tony. She's like, lab's all set up, boss. And he goes, pointing to Captain America. He's like, oh, actually, he's the boss. I just pay for everything, design everything, and make everyone look cooler. I love that. Great line.
Yeah.
And then when Maria Hill's talking to Cap and explaining what powers the Maximoff twins have, she goes through telekinesis and all this stuff, and then she's like, basically, he's fast, she's weird. So funny stuff there.
Yeah. Even her like capping on Cap about the bad language.
Yeah.
During the post party scene.
Yeah.
I think that was funny. I like how she was kind of given more lines and more like a personality, to be around the Avengers. Like she's not herself an Avenger, right? She's like a supporting Avenger, I guess you could say. But when Thor and Tony are kind of sparring about their partners, right? And Miss Potts is running, one of the most blah 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 companies in the world, and Thor's, oh well, there's talks that Jane's gonna be given a Nobel Peace Prize, and she's like, oh, like Maria is like, oh, like where are all the ladies and this and that, what have you, and she coughs testosterone, like it's, she can hang with the boys. I think that's cool. I admire that out of a woman.
Yeah. Good stuff. Brittany, is there anything else you want to mention as far as things we haven't talked about, moments you want to highlight?
No, I think we actually pretty much hit everything, all the high points of Age of Ultron. Again, it is one of my favorite movies in the MCU. I rank it actually very high in comparison to my fellow watchers, which I don't understand why, but anyway, it's fine. Well, they can be wrong. It's fine.
When
it's
the
fine.
MCU gets to 40 movies, which will be happening sooner than later, we were going to re-rank. We're going to re-rank. Yeah, we'll do it. We're going to do. There's
going to be so many that are just like in the middle. That's going to be difficult to do.
That's why we have a point system. We're gonna we go to the math.
Yeah.
The math will have to math for us.
Oh man, I hate math. I'm gonna leave it to you. But no, I think we definitely hit all the top 10 moments and then some. But yes, we definitely want to hear from you, our fellow watchers. Tell us in the live chat here and now, or just let us know in the comments down below what are some of your favorite moments of Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah, and let us know, what are your favorite Marvel movies? What are you looking forward to the next year or so? Are you excited for Fantastic Four? Obviously not Marvel, but Superman's flying into theaters very soon. I'm super pumped about that. So let us know in the comments. We appreciate it. And before we get out of here, we had a comment earlier from a new person for the show. Noble Society had a comment asking us to y'all should review Venom: The Last Dance. Yes. So Noble Society, I really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully you subscribed and will stick around for a while. We would really love that. Yeah. Brittany hasn't seen that movie, I don't believe, right?
Nope.
I saw that movie in the theaters back in October, and originally we had planned to maybe do some kind of a review of it. I really did not like the movie. In fact, the Venom movies are just not my thing. The Sony movies are just not the Spider-Man-less Sony movies are just not my thing. I didn't like Madam Web. I didn't like Craven.
Haven't seen that one.
Venom movies. Yeah, they're not even like bad fun for me. They're just bad. And
yeah,
sometimes that's great to talk about, but like honestly, I just did not enjoy Venom: The Last Dance. So
yeah, which is a shame because I do truly love Tom Hardy as an actor. I do like him in this role of Eddie, and playing off Venom and what have you. But yeah, the first movie I like the best. Second one with Carnage was kind of weird and just a mess in my personal opinion. And when Justin saw Venom: The Last Dance, Justin's kind of like my buffer in a way. He'll go watch something first and then he'll give me his feedback because we tend to have very similar tastes in entertainment. And when he came back and basically said what he said to me about Game of Thrones after Jon Snow died. He's like, I cannot recommend this movie. And I'm like, enough said. Don't say anything more. I will
Yeah,
not
but
go see it.
but that was different. It wasn't the quality of the show. The show was still very good. It was
No,
just
I
I just
understand.
didn't like
I
the
know.
fact that my
But you
favorite
took that
character was
same
killed
kind of
off.
approach in the sense of like, I cannot recommend this movie to be watched.
Yeah.
And it's like, done.
Yeah, the Venom Last Dance, that I dislike that movie so much that like I'm a person when I go to the movies, my phone is in my pocket. I don't look at it at all.
Yeah.
But I went opening day or preview day for Venom: The Last Dance, and there was no one in my row, and I was in the very back. And so about halfway through the movie, I had
Very
my phone out, and I was like checking the time and kind of making, trying to pass the time until the movie ended. And I still watched the movie. I didn't miss anything from the movie, but
Yeah.
just did not enjoy it. But I do agree with Brittany. The first
Okay.
Venom movie, I would say like that's the best one by far,
Yeah.
and then they pretty
For
much
sure.
fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
But Venom's your thing. That's cool. Those Venom movies made a lot of money. All
They
three of them
did.
did very well,
They
especially the
really
first
did.
one. So and Tom Hardy's a great actor. I mean, obviously,
Oh, for sure.
he killed it in Dark Knight Rises, and he's done it in so many other roles. And even
Yes.
in the role that he plays in Venom, like he does the job well. It's just
He does.
the story, like to
The
me, it's
movie is
just
just not good.
it's just these movies that are they're Spider-Man characters that don't have Spider-Man in the movies, which I just don't
Yeah.
like. You just can't do that. Like it's very hard
It
to
makes sense.
do like what the Penguin did to make a show
Oh,
about a Batman character not need Batman. The Penguin that
oh,
was amazing.
so
Like,
good.
but Venom is not on
That
the
show was
level.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Venom's not on that level. So,
No.
but if that's one of your favorite characters, love that character. I mean, not everything I like is popular. I mean, I love Thunderbolts, and apparently I'm not, I'm in the minority because not a ton of people are going to see it.
Yeah, I don't understand that
I don't get
in
that
the
either.
sense of
Yeah.
why they don't. I thought it was great.
I thought it
I thought
was
it was
one of the
great.
better movies in a long
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
and I like Joker Filet do. I'm like one of the
Yes.
few people that likes that movie.
Yes.
I love The Flash. I watched The Flash a few weeks ago. I think it's great. I think The Flash is
I was
easily
watching
the
that on
best.
TV the other day too.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Easily the best DCEU movie.
Mhm.
If DC had done more movies like The Flash, they could have had their own kind of Avengers movie with the Justice League. But
Flash was great. I just feel like the costume for Ben Affleck's Batman was awful. Like
yeah.
that was just really poorly done. But it's made up for with Michael Keaton reprising his role as
Yeah.
Batman. So yeah, no,
And
Flash is great.
Yeah, and I liked Wonder Woman in 1984, and I'm like one of the few people who like that movie too. So it's you don't have to always you can go against the grain sometimes. You can
Yeah.
be yourself. So enjoy what you want to enjoy.
Not the babies, Yesenia, in the Flash. My God, that was such a rough scene.
You mean the baby shower
Oh,
that Alfred
God.
says? Yeah.
Jeez, so bad. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah. We do. So I think that about does it for the pod this week.
It does.
For today. We appreciate everybody who joined us. And now you know what we thought about Avengers Age of Ultron and our top 10 moments and even a few bonus ones. We want to know what you thought about the film. And Brittany, how can people let us know?
Well, as always, we invite everyone to join us in our live streams, just like Yesenia, M Moves, King B. Johnson, and Noble Society join us today. We do appreciate y'all taking your time out of your day to join us. We enjoy doing these pods and more so enjoy the engagement with you all. M Moves is going off on Wonder Woman right now, and Gal Gadot. My goodness. Okay, we know how she truly feels. And lead by example. Follow M Moves. Let us know your thoughts on Avengers Age of Ultron. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What are your top moments? Let us know in the comments as well as the live stream if you're still joining us for the live stream. While you're at it, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that like button as well as the notification bell. That way you can join us for the next time we go live, which will be this Saturday. Join Amber and myself as we finally discuss the final 2 episodes of the final season of The Handmaid's Tale from Hulu. I got thoughts, y'all. I got thoughts. And I can't believe it's finally over, but join us this Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for that final review. And we will be back to talk about something at some point. We're going to be talking about Doctor Who. I know that for a fact. Justin and I need to get caught up with this season. And we would love for y'all to join us there as well. follow all of our social media. You can find the links in the description box down below, as well as audio podcasts. Link. We're on Spotify, and we also have an Apple Podcast. If you guys are interested in that, give us a follow and give us a 5-star rating.
Appreciate it, Brittany. So for Brittany, I am Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you again next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Watchers, assemble next time.